This is something I've been reflecting over the course of the last several days, actually. Many of us claim that we are searching for truth, and we make that claim in a very verbal sort of way. And the truth of the matter is that it's not enough merely to say that we are searching for truth verbally, because the truth of the matter is that if we were to indeed encounter truth, would we be ready to face truth? See, what it means to actually face truth in its most vivid of senses is that at that point, all speaking stops. It is at that point that silence actually makes sense. It is at that point that we understand that truth is not, like I was saying earlier, merely a good idea. It's not merely something that's theoretical. It's something which, when we encounter it, we at that point have two choices. Surrender to it or shut up. Now, what do I mean by this? See that curtain behind you? There's a curtain there. Can't completely see on the other side. If I were to tell each of you as an individual, if I were to go up to you and say, guess what? God is on the other side of that curtain. No, not an idea. No, not someone claiming to be God. Truthfully, God. The center of all reality. That being who upholds all of reality the way that a string holds pearls up in a necklace. That being, personified, is on the other side of that curtain. And that being wants to meet you. You. And speak to you. God has something to tell you as an individual. And God has something to give you. Now at this point, understanding who is on the other side of that curtain and understanding the significance of such an encounter. At this point, you understand, what does it mean to encounter this being? At this point, all of history, all of time comes to a stop. At this point, everything that you are, everything you have been, everything that you have known is now going to come to a stop. And you are about to encounter something that your heart has been yearning for since before you were born, since before you even had this body. The culmination of your existence is now about to be met. At this point, what do you do? At this point, you surrender. At this point, you go to that curtain, and before you even enter that room, understanding the significance of who you are about to meet and what is about to happen, first, you fall to the ground. You place your forehead on the ground before that curtain, understanding who you are about to meet. And at this point, you understand. Enter that curtain with surrender, or be quiet and go away. This is the nature of truth. The nature of truth is not a light thing. We live in a very light culture. That's about to change, as some of us know. We live in a very light culture, where spirituality also, like everything else in our culture, is entertainment. Where spirituality is a light thing. Where the idea of going through that curtain is a light thing. But in actuality, it's not. If we truly wish to know truth, we need to surrender to that truth. And at that point, we need to understand that the time for us trying to grasp that truth, trying to make that truth our possession, is over. And instead, we are to be possessed by that truth. Such is the nature of God. And such is the nature of the true search for that God. My guru used to say something very radical. He used to say, you want to know truth, then die. That's about as radical as it comes. He would say, die to live. What does that mean? Does he mean literally kill yourself? Oh, of course not. What he means is that when you look through the history of spirituality, true spirituality, not Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra is a friend of mine. I actually opened for him in Madison when he came there and gave his first talk in 2002. But I'm not talking Deepak Chopra. I'm talking about when you look at the history of humanity and you look at the history of world religion, you look at the history of spirituality, and you look at the lives of true saints. When you see a Jesus, why is this such a big deal that he died the way he did? Yes, there's the physical aspect. Yes, there's the gory aspect. But more than that, it's also symbolic. That we are all meant to go through a type of inner death and rebirth, if we are to know that. Inner. You know, in the Bible they call it being born again. But it's actually a deeper metaphysical concept. The idea is that when you look at any true saint, any being who has truly experienced the divine, as vividly as this example that I'm giving you, when you look at people who have walked through that curtain and known God, whether it's a Jesus, a Saint Francis of Assisi, the great yogis of India, the great rishis of the past, the great saints, the great sages, when you look at these people, they belong to different spiritual traditions, they practiced different things, even their ideas were slightly different from one another, but they had one thing in common: they died in order to know that. They gave of themselves. They quite literally went through a rebirth in order to know that divine. And frankly, if the divine is worth knowing, it's worth going through a rebirth to know. Otherwise, we're just playing games. So is this serious? Yeah, it's serious. It's also the most fun thing in the world. This is why when you encounter a real saint, you find that they tend to giggle a lot. When you find someone like a Gandhi, even, you know, who saw this movie Gandhi? You know, this was a man who became celibate. This was a man who led the most austere lifestyle to personify truth, yet he was always giggling. He found everything funny. That's a real saint. So the truth is, spiritual life is actually the most serious thing in the world, and it's also its opposite, the most fun thing in the world. That's why they say the real sage is as hard as a thunderbolt and as soft as a lotus leaf. Simultaneously. Simultaneously. Because in the sage, these opposites are reconciled. All opposites actually are reconciled in the sage. So, become a sage. Become a sage. Become what Søren Kierkegaard called the knight of faith. An individual who is living within the world, who has seemingly a concert going on, but who has the ability when he speaks to stop that concert. Become a sage. Live within this world, but live your life in such a way that you're literally like that lotus flower. The lotus flower grows out of a pond of muddy water, but it rises above it, it transcends it, and it is a source of beauty for the entire world. We are all meant to become like those lotus flowers. Not artificially renounce the world, no. Live here with the concert going on, but live your life in such a way that when people meet you, they know that there is something to life more than simply listening to the concert. Acha hai. Very good.